enablers for the medium and small scale enterprises to be successful and make rural jobs happen, to make the future of India bright and, I would say, resilient in the way in which this happens. This creates the economic depth, the social stability, and most importantly, the employment architecture at the ground level. So as we are looking at this geopolitical global scenario, it becomes necessary that the resilience is built in through a broad-based entrepreneurial capacity being built in our medium and small-scale enterprises. That's why the CII Center of Excellence in Employment and Livelihood was actually conceptualized, and with the support of TVS, it was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2024, and we are happy to share that within 1 year of our operations, we have impacted over 2,700 micro and small entrepreneurs across 13 states and 40 districts in the states. And most importantly, as was mentioned by the President in today's morning address, this has actually impacted companies which are employing over 43,000 people and generating more than 13,000 crores in revenue. And I will now request for a video on this center to be played, which gives as to what I spoke about just now and all the activities.
India is home to over 6.3 crore MSMEs, contributing nearly 30% to the nation's GDP. At the heart of this ecosystem are micro enterprises, resilient, resourceful, and full of untapped potential. As a structured, outcome-driven journey. The program unfolds in 2 phases. Phase 1 focuses on business transformation, strengthening fundamentals across finance, strategy, leadership, and compliance. This is followed by Phase 2, a 12-month guided engagement that supports entrepreneurs in translating learning into sustained business growth. Throughout the year, entrepreneurs engage through focused formats, knowledge sessions, hands-on workshops, growth circles, and transformation engagements, ensuring consistent action and accountability. The forum is designed for impact, with over 60 targeted touchpoints and 100+ guided learning hours, creating micro-enterprises that are compliant, financially resilient, and ready for credit-led growth. Built for India's micro-enterprises, particularly those with up to 10 crore in turnover. To enable wider participation, CII CEL forums and transformation engagements are delivered in English as well as regional languages, ensuring true bottom-up accessibility. This is a national initiative, supported by corporates and institutions in creating a meaningful shift, enabling underserved regions. The goal is to reach over 1 lakh micro-entrepreneurs, transforming enterprises, livelihoods, and leadership across India. The outcomes are tangible: stronger decision-making, improved financial discipline, and clear readiness to scale. CII invites banks, corporates, policymakers, and industry bodies to co-create the next chapter of India's MSME growth story, driven by entrepreneurship, skilling, youth, and women development. With resilient entrepreneurs and empowered MSMEs, a Viksit Bharat is well within reach.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we move into hearing on the broader issues, I thought it would be good for us to actually hear from the entrepreneurs who have come here and who have benefited from the work which is being done by this center. And I would actually like to specifically ask one question to the four of you, and would request you to give your feedback and answer in that order which I'll call out the names. How do you actually define growth for your enterprise, and what in your view is critical in helping you sustain and sail growth in the tough world or in the tough years ahead which we see? Let me start now with Mr. Ramalingam, who is Director of Ramwin Engineering Services Private Limited from Coimbatore. Please go ahead.
Good morning to all the panelists. Thank you for this opportunity. So we are coming from the Coimbatore. We have around more than 1 lakh micro units are there. There are so many sectors are there: automobiles, textiles, machine tools, valve industries. When we consider these micro units in the entrepreneur perspective, the entrepreneur plays a various role. In the CEO role, he plays the operations manager, he plays in the finance side, he plays for the day-to-day activities. He's filled with his time with the problem solving, crisis management, firefighting and all. So this program helps to review where are we and where we need to go. He need to have some more the spare timings to think of the growth perspective and all. What I most like with this program is one of the skill attitude matrix, where if we have the employees, we don't know what is their capabilities. When we interview them, we see only their qualifications, not their attitude-wise. But when we want to work together with them, we find their attitude. So we see that attitude is one of the important metrics in the team building. So that is one of the key highlights, and we implemented in our organization as well. We also changed our HR policies like that employee, when he is relieving from the organization or resigning, he should be taken care very well. That he is going to be the output of your company. He is branding your company outside, and that will also give you more recruitments and help like that. So he should be taken care very well, transparently, what is his problem, why he is leaving like that. If he is reasonable, he should be relieved in a very transparent way. Second one, we find that we want to maintain the relationship with the employees who left the company also. We made in our organization the alumni portal, which helps to connect with the employees who left the organization, and it will give a real bondage. When we take the freshers and all, they see the first company as like a first lover. So they will remain throughout the lifetime. When we have the touch points, we are touching the emotional quotient, we are getting a better output from them. So when we come to the scaling perspective, when we settle down the team structures very well, then we work on the strategy, vision, mission, our purpose and values, growth perspectives. So in this track, when we move on, surely we will going to a scale up and to be a good large scale industries in the future. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Can I now request Ms. Roshani Prem Murari from Nasik, Eco Shorewood.
Good morning, everyone. Myself, Roshni Dubey from Nashik, Maharashtra. I manufacture cold press oil. तो आई थिंक यहाँ सब बैठे हैं, सबको हेल्थ की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि हमारी मॉर्निंग ही खाने से होती है, ब्रेकफास्ट से होती है. तो हेल्दी खाना खाना है तो कोल्ड प्रेस ऑयल को यूज़ करना है. एंड आई वांट टू थैंक यू CII कि नासिक जैसे छोटे शहर में भी वो ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ देते हैं जहाँ पर स्मॉल स्केल जो इंडस्ट्री चला रहे हैं उनको सीखने का मौका मिलता है, लोगों से मिलने का भी मौका मिलता है. तो मैंने वहाँ पर सीखा ChatGPT और AI, ऐसे सिस्टम जो नए आए हैं जिनके बारे में शायद ही लोगों को इतना फैमिलियर नहीं होते जब नई टेक्नोलॉजी आती है. तो वहाँ के वर्कशॉप से मैंने सीखा कि हाउ टू यूज़ ChatGPT फॉर बिजनेस, लाइक डिजिटल मार्केटिंग करना है तो आप, मुझे लगता है कि भारत के हर कोने तक पहुँच सकते हो. तो वहाँ के वर्कशॉप से मैंने उसे ईजिली कैसे यूज़ करना है और अपनी मार्केटिंग को कैसे बढ़ाया जा सकता है, वो सारी चीज़ें मैंने वहाँ पर बेहतर तरीके से सीखी है. थैंक यू सो मच.
थैंक यू. Very nicely put. And Delek Namgyal from Ladakh, Tales Tour and Travel Ladakh, please.
Thank you. Good morning, dignitaries and distinguished guests. My name is Dilek, and I come from Ladakh. So I run a travel company called Ladakh Tales Tour and Travel. Plus, I manage hotel. So the thing is, in Ladakh, in last year, CEL, I attended the CEL workshop, and in that workshop, I have learned something very new, which is not very known to Ladakh. Traditionally, in Ladakh, those who are doing any form of business, whether it's in service or manufacturing, they used to do, in Hindi we call bhed chal. Whoever is doing it, other is just following it without a proper guide and knowledge. So with the workshop, I learned that a lot of things are important, even the tiniest small things are important. And especially, although we know that digital presence is important, but in that seminar or the workshop, I learned that how in today's world, how important it is to be digitally present. Yeah? And in currently Ladakh, there are about 1,800 MSMEs, and out of which 22% are in manufacturing and 70% are in service industry. As you all know that Ladakh is a tourist destination, and Ladakh's 70% of the economy depend on tourism. And to run this industry, a lot of people didn't have a proper training to conduct or to grow their business. So I'm very thankful to CII for the workshop, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now can I request Colonel Joy Chowdhury, founder Naga Products from Nagaland, please.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a fantastic and a humongous platform that I find myself on. Totally overwhelmed coming from a small state like Nagaland, and to be found on a stage like this with our Chief Economic Advisor is simply mind-blowing. I'm Colonel Joy Chowdhury. I was an Indian Army veteran, fought in the IPKF and also in the Kargil War. I'm married to a lovely lady from Nagaland. It's a beautiful place, and for those who have not come to Nagaland, I'd love you to come there. It's got a lot of things to offer. My friends and I, we've set up two enterprises, Naga Key Products Private Limited and We Serve Enterprises. We Serve is focused towards the armed forces, so we call it We Serve Those Who Serve Us. And Naga Key to bring up our artisans and rural farmers in the interiors of Nagaland. I attended this program by the CII CEL last year. It was a first for me. I never knew about the existence. I knew about CII, definitely. But I was really struck by what we were doing and what we learned, especially getting to know that we need to avail credit. And our tribals are very credit wary. They're very shy of coming forward to take credit because they have different perceptions. They go to money lenders and stuff like that and get trapped in the debt cycle. So I learned that they're also because of the perception that they have of what the banks want and stuff like that, so we are wary. So we learned the importance of making ourselves, instead of blaming the system, we learned that it's there, so we need to make ourselves aware of being creditworthy and come forward to do that. A small request to Sir Anantha, the Chief Economic Advisor, sir. There's a fantastic scheme, the PM Surya Ghar rooftop solar. We're trying to use it for our initiative. We're facing a few challenges, so we are in touch with the director, CEL, and he'll help us to get rid of it. There are some options in the Jan Samarth portal which we're not able to overcome right now. It's got two products for funding, and we are stuck on the lower one. The banks want to give us more. We have credit worthiness, but we're not being able to do that one right now, sir. To take India forward, the remote northeast of India needs people like you all to come forward. It's got much to offer. Like I said before, please come. And definitely we need a model which is different from what's working in down south or which is possibly working in Delhi. And we are there to learn from you all and to make things happen on ground. Like Vikram Batra said in Kargil War, ye dil mange more, we want more of CII CEL. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe let me first clarify that point. I first of all have to thank and congratulate the team which have been looking into this project to make sure we reached out to the Northeast first, and that's why we came there. I think our commitment is very high in terms of spreading that further in the region. So I can assure you we'll be behind you in supporting and making that happen. And I think the corporates here will confirm that as well. So really look forward to that. So I just wanted to summarize before I request Dr. Anantha Nageswaran to give his keynote remarks. I think there are specifically 4 issues, which I think some of them I mentioned, but I just want to capture that first. First is access to timely and affordable credit. Now, how do we make that happen? How do we facilitate that? And how do we support make that happen? Secondly, integration into value chains, especially when you're manufacturing or when you're a service provider to a larger company. How do we make or have that access provided? And as we look at market access also to be added to that. Third is, how do we adopt digital tools and technology? How do we prepare for the future? How do we create that mechanism to make that happen? It's no more an aspiration, it's required. Finally, the skilling and capability building is something which we have to work on to make that a reality. And bearing this in mind, I know Dr. Anantha Nageswaran has been, the last one I would like to mention here is market access and institutional support. So that's something which again from CII side, I think is definitely we'll be working on making that happen. Dr. Anantha Nageswaran has been somebody, when we first conceptualized this idea, we ran it through, and he was one who liked what we were trying to do. And that's why, Doctor, I think we made sure that you are here to see the success at the end of the first year. But I think we were more interested to hear from you as to how you see us going forward and what we look at the future.
Good morning, Mr. Dinesh, the chairperson and the moderator of this session, and a very good morning to the members of the CII Entrepreneurs Development Forum, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I must first of all commend CII not only for setting up this session, but also for a very succinct blurb for this session, which sets the context very well. Particularly the last 2 sentences, and I want to focus on them: ensuring the effective integration of micro enterprises into the evolving global and, more importantly, domestic value chains. And the second sentence, last sentence says, the future of India's growth will be shaped by how inclusively these enterprises are enabled to adapt, scale, and compete. So I think that captures the world in which they operate and the challenges they face in the coming years. So I'm going to try and use my limited time to address these 2 aspects. So how do we get micro and small enterprises into national and global value chains? If you look at the history of several other countries which in more peaceful and less uncertain times were able to get their manufacturing sector to have a large share of GDP. We all know that micro, small, and medium enterprises in those countries played a very important role. And they are not technological backwaters. They, in fact, are at the forefront of technology and innovation in those countries. Whether you look at Japan, Germany, Switzerland, Sweden, and Korea, and more recently China, etc. In all these cases, micro, small, and medium enterprises were actually one of the fountainheads of innovation and technological sophistication. How do we get our micro enterprises, which are relatively smaller in size? If we look at them, more than 90% of them are in the employment strength of about between 1 and 5, including the founding entrepreneurs. There are multiple areas to focus on. I will focus on the importance of trade skills. No manufacturing enterprise in the country, regardless of the size, can function without skilled human resources. And those skills will also today have to be such that makes them important and indispensable to the enterprise, so that they are not replaced by either artificial intelligence or down the road by industrial robots. So trade skills, where human judgment, skill, and craftsmanship are important, would be the areas like carpentry, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, civil. So how do micro and small enterprises make sure that they address this aspect in their own enterprises so that their employees don't feel insecure and threatened by the technological developments, and they can be a source of such human resources to large enterprises. The first step is to have the entrepreneurs themselves invest in such skills personally and set an example, no matter how small their workforce is. And making sure that even their employees, no matter whether they are in service areas like human resources or accounting or inventory management, etc., also invest in at least one or two of these trade skills. Because that is also the pathway to growth. Even if the employment strength of the average micro enterprise in the country from the range of 1 to 5 were to double, that itself would contribute hugely to employment generation, even if the absolute number employed by each enterprise remains still relatively modest. So investing in trade skills personally and for their own employees is the way to integrate themselves into domestic and global value chains, because all enterprises in the manufacturing space are facing this shortage regardless of the size. How do you invest in these trade skills then? And this is where I think tying themselves to the budget announcement of revamping the industrial training institutes makes a lot of sense. It serves two purposes in one stone. First of all, these micro enterprises can form themselves into clusters so that there is a critical mass of them. And then they can not only contribute with the help of forums such as what the CII has founded, but also through their own resources, whether it is financial or non-financial, to reviving and revamping some of the industrial training institutes in their vicinity. In the process, they make these industrial training institutes come alive and repurpose themselves and also provide themselves a center of know-how and knowledge which they can then use to upgrade themselves and make themselves relevant to domestic and international value chains of scale. So it serves two purposes. Because the important thing is to make the industrial training institutes an aspirational place for our youngsters to go to. For them to be in dilapidated structures and buildings which don't look appetizing or inviting for youngsters is not the way to persuade them to embrace trade skills. So therefore, pooling their limited resources and using resources from larger organizations or federations, and even taking up one or maximum two institutions to revive and therefore benefit in the process is one way that micro enterprises can keep themselves or make themselves more relevant to the global and international value chains, and that also provides them an avenue to scale from whatever size that they are at the moment to take it to the next level and then allow the endogenous process to play itself out over the years. Coming to the other stakeholders in the system as to what they can do to facilitate such an approach that could be taken by micro enterprises is, of course, policymakers across the country have to pursue, and I don't mean just one particular wing or arm of the government, across the country, policymakers have to pursue simple, transparent, and trust-based regulation. Because we know that the regulatory architecture places a disproportionately large burden on micro and small enterprises given their limited bandwidth. They don't have that much time to devote to compliance, but they are required to do so. Larger enterprises can outsource such tasks. Small enterprises or micro enterprises in particular cannot afford to do that. And therefore, the task across the country, and I'm glad that the policymakers across the country have embraced this with enthusiasm based on the evidence that we presented in the economic survey of the phase 1 deregulation that states are doing. In fact, phase 2 has been launched as of January this year, and that is even more ambitious than the 23 deregulation areas that phase 1 focused on. In case you have not yet read it, I would recommend that you read chapter 16 of the economic survey that came out in January. So, smart regulation, appropriate regulation, simple, transparent, and trust-based, of which deregulation is a part, including self-certification, consolidation, lengthening the amount of time for which a particular approval is valid. All these things are part of this architecture, which also gives the micro and entrepreneurs the bandwidth to focus on personal, employee, and self-development and enterprise development. Last but not the least, larger enterprises in the country have to pledge to contribute to relieving the working capital requirements of micro and small enterprises. In general, empirical evidence around the country shows that micro, small, and medium enterprises are the source of working capital for large enterprises. It should be the reverse. And because these enterprises have a much higher cost of capital, so large enterprises to depend on them for working capital, and most of you here know what I'm talking about. I think, so starting with acceptance of invoices, payment on time, and helping them also source financial resources through formal banking system and other systems, etc., is a very big contribution that large enterprises around the country can do, so that these enterprises provide them the feeder in terms of know-how, in terms of technological integration and assimilation, and in the process create a successful positive bandwagon effect in terms of integration into global value chains. I hope these observations are useful and are important pointers for you to reflect on. I wish the micro entrepreneurs assembled here, sitting here, and elsewhere in the country a lot of success, and I reassure them that policymakers are keeping their growth and aspirations very much at the center of all the policy initiatives that have been taken in the last decade or so and will continue to be taken, keeping their interests and aspirations in mind, because the country's aspirations are intertwined with theirs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anand. I think really appreciate your inputs, and I think the intent is very clear, but we will come back to that in the summary in terms of how do we further actualize this. So maybe let me have a quick first round of questions to the rest of the panel, and then I'll throw it open to the audience, time permitting. So a quick question to Kamal Bali and Tyagarajan. I would call it a joint question. I mean, both of you come from large enterprises, and both of you understand that we want to become a globally competitive manufacturing base. How do we envisage small enterprises becoming integrated, and how do we accelerate their capability development? If I can hear from you first, Kamal, followed by Tyag.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. First of all, before we start, I really want to compliment CII for this amazing initiative. We've been involved with this for the last 1.5 to 2 years, and I can tell you that the kind of on-ground results which we are seeing are tremendous. And I think we've already covered a lot, but of course a long, long way to go. We are a very large country, and we have to cover a very large mass of micro enterprises to come up to speed. Yeah, so Dinesh, to answer your question specifically, typically organizations, larger organizations like ours and others, we are looking at being competitive and remaining on top of the overall global value chains, for which we are looking at sustainability challenges, we are looking at quality, we are looking at AI, a number of things which we have to look at. And one of the very important things is our value chain. Our tier 1 suppliers, our tier 2 suppliers, we have started to work with them on all these. Don't want to get into details, but all these very important attributes and imperatives to remain competitive in this global world. So when we go down to tier 1, tier 2 suppliers, then micro enterprises then become part of our tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. So that's the connect which we have with micro enterprises. And I think that's a very, very important connect. And the message is very clear that we need to work in an ecosystem approach, not a transactional approach. We need to see micro enterprises, as the CA also said, we should look at them and not use them for our working capital. In fact, if at all anything, we should provide them that working capital. I mean, I think that should not be the purpose of those micro enterprises. We are killing them by using their working capital. So I'm being very frank and candid about this. So I think that's one. Then, of course, a lot of new tools and when it comes to technology, when it comes to manufacturing processes, giving them the actual guidance, also sensitizing them on sustainability, people issues, governance. These are all important issues. They might sound very bookish, but no, they are not bookish. Very fundamental to running a good business is required. And I think that is the knowledge we need to impart to them. So simple things like those. So I think that's one. I'm sure if we do this, and if there is capability, we develop capability, commitment, capital, I think the micro enterprises can actually turn around the entire manufacturing ecosystem of India, something which we have always wanted, that manufacturing should be much more than 15-20% of our GDP, and we've been struggling at 15% all the time. And I think this is the reason, and if we can get micro enterprises into our value chains, it will become a lot easier. And Volvo is committed to doing this.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamal.
Thank you, Dinesh. I keep reflecting what they don't teach in the business school or what they don't teach in the corporations I work for, including Blue Star. I learned it in CII, numerous subjects. It has been a privilege to work with you. He was the chair of Tamil Nadu State Council. I worked under him as a chair of Southern Regional Chair. I worked under you. And it's a privilege to work with you on this huge initiative where you and your family have invested heavily into this entrepreneurship and skill employability subject. Very first thing is, Dr. Anantha Nageswaran will measure it very accurately that 35-36% of India's GDP coming from the MSMEs. Ballpark calculation, Blue Star's value addition, 65% roughly comes from MSMEs. So it is not, the BRSR report doesn't ask for it. I think you should insist that the companies measure and report. These MSMEs are not only in manufacturing, they are in EPC contracting as subcontractors or service providers for HVAC systems maintenance or in manufacturing in numerous ways. So a corporation which is $1.5 billion revenue, it is entirely dependent on MSMEs. As we speak, we look for many more partnerships. Now, the model, according to me, which has worked very well is to first say the assured business that is available. Like, for example, our industry continues to import many components. If I were to say that here is a business worth 75 crores I import today, this business is for you. If you work with me and innovate and begin to manufacture, I will be ready to invest. That model works very successfully. Or if I were to say that data center industry is growing, in about 6 months' time or in a 6-month period, I will need something like 5,000 workers or the MEP contractors which you mentioned, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, that is not available. If somebody is ready to tell me in Navi Mumbai, I will be able to give 2,000 workers per day, that's a business model I will be ready to partner with. 65% of, Ashok, you are aware of this figure, often 65% of the air conditioners are sold in tier 3, 4, 5 markets. There are no dealers out there in sufficient numbers or the service providers. If I were to tell you that these are the towns I need and please set it up, and that is a micro or small enterprises business. So Where I'm coming from is there is an assured business that is available, which I will not be able to do it myself. And I am providing this opportunity and I am ready to help you. This is the model that will work.
Thank you, Tyag. So let me move to you, Lakshmi. I think you have been working many years in nurturing entrepreneurship in micro enterprises. So actually, what do you think is the most important connecting point in further scaling this up and making it grow?
Thank you, Dinesh. You're absolutely right. We have been striving for over 30 years to create a conducive environment for micro entrepreneurs, particularly at the startup phase. So I think of this platform as a rare treat. To have someone like a top policy advisor like Anantha Nageswaran not only have a sweeping knowledge of everything from macro to the micro, but actually spend time and interest in focusing on something like the micro enterprise. I think these are rare times. And definitely, I think the CIL Center, Dinesh, and CII has started is going to create a lot of spotlight, shine a lot of spotlight on micro enterprises. Having said that, I think some of the challenges we face, particularly, and I'm going to address for the starting phase of these micro enterprises. We create about 10,000 new startups every year. If you go into the hinterlands of India, into the small towns and aspirational districts, frankly, people have no clue as to what it means to set up an enterprise, leave alone how to go about it. They think small, they start small, and if they are lucky, they survive. So, for example, what is it that we can do to create awareness about the viability of a micro enterprise? In a district like Kalahandi, for example, we did some business idea contests. We created awareness camps, and we did mentoring and counseling. That year, the percentage of more than 20% more enterprises were started in that very first year because of that. And not only that, the average loan size in the Kalahandi area was about 1 lakh because the banks just didn't have the confidence. After we did this, the average loan size now is 5 lakhs within that very first year. So I believe that awareness, particularly we are talking about Ladakh, we are talking about the Northeast, we are talking about even Lakshadweep and Andaman, why not? We should be thinking about this. So why not the government have a awareness campaign like a Swachh Bharat or a Jan Dhan Yojana campaign? Why not have such a campaign to create awareness about the micro entrepreneurs? I think that kind of a knowledge on a wider scale would be useful. Second, the government has been, I think in 2025, they increased the investment limit and the turnover limit in how you define a micro enterprise. Now, why that is good? Because it brings more people into the ambit. What really happens is when you're talking about the startup phase, the challenges and needs of these people get lost. The average loan size of a mudra today, all three combined, is 74,000 rupees. We are talking about now 2.5 crores as the investment and 10 crores as the turnover limit for definition. So in some sense, what happens to all these people? What are their challenges and what do they need? Perhaps the Odisha government, I know a year ago, created a category called nano entrepreneurs. So I don't know whether we should go on adding more categories, but nevertheless, the startup phase, when you keep increasing the upper limit, does have this problem. Another more broader request or recommendation is the fact that very often we talk about subsidies, we talk about GST compliance issues and so on, and we talk in terms of size. Can we move to a situation where if we were to incubate a unit, whether it is in a rural area or whether it is in IIT Roorkee, doesn't matter, when we incubate, can we think of a time-bound type of support rather than a size-based support? So within the first 3 years, you have practically no compliances to be bothered with. You get access to capital, which is which is relatively easier to get. And on top of it, all of your needs and your training and your mentoring all gets taken care of in an intensive manner. What then we do is we focus all of our efforts in the first 3 years And thereafter, we assume that these people have got the capacity already built in them to grow. But once we don't do that, then people who have been there for 10 years are making use of the same subsidies, whereas the people who are in the beginning are not getting enough subsidies or enough support of the kind that they need. So I think these are the two broader ones. Of course, the issue about the Mudra loan size being too small and not, you need at least 5 to 6 lakhs today to create the 10 jobs. All of our entrepreneurs create 10 jobs direct and about 40 jobs indirect over the last 30, 40 years is what we've seen. But they need an initial capital investment of at least 4 to 5 lakhs to begin with. The second thing, of course, is when you want to integrate mentoring. I believe that we are talking about training institutes and so on. Can we adopt the same attitude that a Silicon Valley enterprise creates? Because when you start, one of the first things that the venture capitalist does is to provide mentoring. Without that, it's a twin support, both the VC and the mentoring. But somehow when we come to these kind of startups and micro enterprises, we don't understand the importance of mentoring. So we have been doing in the last several years, embedding mentoring into the institutional framework. Any touch point to which a micro entrepreneur will start going to, whether it be in educational institutes or whether it be banks, district industry commissions. So for example, the mentoring program, which is again structured, the CEA has said before that we should be looking at not these micro enterprises as welfare recipients, but we must capacity build them from the very beginning. If you were to take that attitude, the mentoring program that we have been adopted by IIT Roorkee has been just as successful in the government polytechnic in Begusarai in Bihar. So I think we need to start thinking about micro enterprises as poor cousins. We need to be thinking not of startups, and then there is micro enterprise, and within the micro enterprise, there is the absolute startup phase. A good beginning is well done, half done. So if you don't start them well, subsistence businesses are not going to scale.
Very good points. I think thank you for all those inputs. I think we will definitely, I think CA himself has heard it, so we will see how to inculcate that into our thinking itself. We were supposed to have open questions, but we have less than 5 minutes. Maybe I'll just take one question. Yes, Titi Ashok, go ahead. Yeah, I know. But
congratulations, Dinesh,
very quick
panelists. So one very quick observation. CA very correctly talked about credit stress for MSMEs. There are fine companies which pay within 45 days. There are many which don't. And sir, exports is becoming more of a challenge, sir, because the extended supply chains, 35% of exports are from MSME. Sustaining it is going to be difficult if the situation continues. Thank you and fantastic job today.
Thank you, please.
I want to congratulate Nageswaran Saab, who has given a very, very right thing on the ground thing. And I just want to make a comment on Nageswaran Saab and Venkateshwan ji, who has commented on something. So Nageswaran Saab has told unlocking the working capital of the micro enterprises. It is not only about the unlocking of the working capital, but it will also unlock a lot of time and inefficiency which this particular payment, delayed payment and non-payment of the large enterprises or the government enterprises to the micro enterprises. You seek the figures when Nageswaran Saab was talking. I was just checking the Google that how many micro enterprises we are having in the country. We are having around 7.88 crores registered micro enterprises. Apart from that, there may be many unregistered micro enterprises. We have 500 to 5,000 crores, 7429 registered entities who locks the turnover of more than 500 crores. 5,000 crores, it is 772 units. So it is just about the units which are having more than 500 crores of turnover. These are just 0.0001% of micro enterprises. So I think so we have a lot of working capital, lot of energy, lot of time we have logged for these many of largest stakeholders. Yeah. On the Venkateshwan Saab, I just commended this thing because when the micro enterprises as a startup comes without any knowledge or any training, they disrupt the system. We talk right now about the quality of the system, the quality of the product and the services. We also talked about the startup. I think so, taking everything along, we are losing the largest of the largest goal. What I think so the model should be that the training of the enterprises should be there. Definitely there should not be barrier. We should not be creating barrier. But when they are having the particular knowledge, training, then only they should be coming on the road, because it will be like that license, they have not got the license and they are on the road to drive the car.
Clear.
Definitely the accidents will be happening. So congratulations for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, one last question from the back and then we close. I was actually looking for questions, but I think we have got only comments. But
yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Sonal. So my question is, large enterprises or medium enterprises, more than 300, 400 crore companies. So they're spending a lot of money on their MSME supply chain skill development. Whereas on other hand, government is also, initiating some kind of a certification program, which is zero effect, zero defect and lean MCLS. And, I am already serving to various large enterprises, but I see the pitch is very, very low right now. Government is also having the similar problem. People are not changing their tire from micro to small to the medium. And here, many large enterprises are here. Wonderful program, many benefits for MSME, but still lack of awareness. And, that is my question, that skill building is available. Government is doing the same, but it is not leveraging. On other hand, lot of money is already spent, and I will give a congratulation to the forum. And also the similar scheme is already adopted by Blue Star team. We already supported them. So this is about the zero defect, zero effect sustainable certification scheme. Thank you very much.
thank you. So we have to unfortunately bring an end to this question and answer now. And I'll just finish with the final point, which is the felicitation of the corporate partners who have been supporting this. We actually launched a Think Micro, Think Big movement. And again, at least people who have walked the talk, we just wanted to use the occasion of having the CEA here to facilitate them in his, just request the mementos to be handed over.
Thank you, sir. It is now our honor to recognize and felicitate organizations who have contributions had made a meaningful difference. May I request our chief guest, Dr. Anantha Nageswaran, Chief Economic Advisor, Government of India, and CII CEL Chairman, Mr. R. Dinesh, to kindly felicitate our partners. We begin with Volvo Group Trust. In appreciation of your support and unwavering commitment to the National Micro and Small Entrepreneurs Development Program, supporting entrepreneurs across 11 states. May I request Mr. Kamal Bali, President and Managing Director, Volvo Group India, to kindly come forward to receive the memento. Our next felicitation is for Blue Star in recognition of your valuable support to the Entrepreneurs Development and Growth Program, supporting entrepreneurs in Chennai and Sri City region. May I request Mr. B. Tyagarajan to kindly come forward. We now felicitate NatWest Digital Services India Private Limited in appreciation of your support to the Capacity Building and Business Excellence Program for micro entrepreneurs with disabilities. Your partnership has empowered over 133 entrepreneurs with disabilities and their enablers in Tamil Nadu. We are joined with Ms. Tanya Chatterjee, Head of Sustainability and CSR, NatWest Group India, and Ms. Utsaha Kohli, Head of Corporate Affairs, NatWest Group India. Request all the dignitaries and the awardees to please stay on the dais for a group photograph. Request Mr. R. Dinesh, Session Chair, to please conclude the session.
Thank you, and it's been a great session. Look forward to next year when we'll be more, I would call it, more success stories and more good points to cover. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the wonderful session. We'll be starting with the other session in few minutes' time. Request all of you to please be seated.